As demand for rapid at-home COVID-19 testing increases across the area, one local pharmacy says they're struggling to keep up with the demand. I'm Bronte Sorotsky with the factors that they say play into this and how soon they think that they'll get another shipment.
Plus, the Carthage School District outlines a new plan to hire more substitute teachers.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Now that holiday gatherings have passed, a lot of 4-staters may want to pick up at-home COVID-19 tests. But as cases rise, tests could be harder to find. This is KOAM News at 6. KOAM's Bronte Sorotsky tells us how the shortage of these tests has hit a local pharmacy.
The holidays are over, which means kids are heading back to school and many people will travel home from vacation. And with COVID-19 cases once again on the rise, you might want to get tested before heading back to day-to-day life. The only issue...
We carry the Binax rapid test. When we can get it. Yeah. With everybody traveling over the holidays, the tests have been really hard to come by.
Adam Fletcher, manager at Prater's Pharmacy, tells us there's been an increased demand for at-home rapid COVID tests. The reason for this increased demand could be due to a few factors, such as the Omicron variant and people gathering and traveling for the holiday.
We typically get 5, and the ones we've had recently, when we've got 5 of them, they've gone out in the same day. We usually have numerous calls a day. It's first come, first serve, and when we get them, and then we've been out for some time now. Some people will try to ask us to hold them, but it's hard to do that.
Fletcher says it may not be just them either.
It's very common. It's like pretty much every pharmacy. Around Christmas, we had so many phone calls just asking, do you have a test, And the consensus is no, I don't think anybody around really does.
Even larger pharmacies and retailers like Amazon, Walmart, and CVS recently announced that they will be limiting the amount of COVID-19 tests that a person can purchase. All of this while the U.S. reports over 1 million new daily COVID cases.
New cases are popping up every day. We're seeing more and more now than we did even when we were at our worst parts of COVID a year ago. So it's most important to continue to wear your mask and also, I guess most importantly, get the vaccine.
In Webb City, Bronte Sorotsky, KOAM News.
The FDA recently reported a decrease in sensitivity in rapid antigen tests when it comes to detecting the Omicron variant, but they say if you test positive, you should trust the result. Another chilly night ahead of us. Nick Kelly.
But at least we made it back near 50 this afternoon, Dow, thanks to at least a good deal of sunshine and that strong south wind. That's still in action as we go throughout the course of the evening, but still looking good from 7th and Range line. We'll call that a partly cloudy sky, even though the sun is pretty much set now. But after we dealt with the round of partly to mostly cloudy skies earlier today, we'll have more clouds on the way for tonight. But the wind really picked up today ahead of our advancing cold front. That is going to be quickly rolling in, certainly as we go through the overnight ahead of us. In the meantime, though, we're still ahead of the front. We have that southwest wind in play, with most of us sitting in the mid to upper 40s. But that breeze for some of you is making it feel like the upper 30s outside. So still you might want to bundle up even as temperatures gradually drop off throughout the course of the evening. But once we hit 39 by midnight, that front roars on through, dropping us back into the 20s for a cold start to our Wednesday down. That will set the stage for some potential snow chances on the way. We'll break that down here in a bit.
See you then. U.S. Marshals are looking for an Oklahoma woman who's considered a most wanted suspect. In November, Heather Griffith pled guilty to assault by striking, beating, and wounding. Authorities say she stabbed a woman at a hotel in Grove. She was sentenced to 1 year supervised probation. Well, she's now wanted for violating that probation. Griffith was last seen in Grove, and authorities say she could still be there. If you have any information, you should contact law enforcement. The Carthage School Board approves a plan aimed at hiring more substitute teachers. Under the new plan, retired teachers and paraprofessionals would see a pay increase of $20 per day of substitute teaching. The plan also adds incentives for substitutes who work long-term in a classroom, like when a regular teacher is on maternity leave. The district is also hiring up to 12 full-time substitutes who will be available when the district needs them, and making substitute pay consistent across the district.
On a daily basis, 33% of our times we did not fill it with a substitute. Our teachers had to fill in, our principals. And we knew we had to do something different. We can't survive that way. It's not fair for our teaching staff to teach on their prep times and this will hopefully provide us an opportunity to gain more subs.
Retired support staff, custodians, and food service workers will also see a pay increase for filling in those positions as a substitute. The Crawford County Habitat for Humanity is accepting applications for home ownership. The organization builds houses for families in need. The application period runs until February 28th. Applicants must have lived in Crawford County for at least a year. If you're interested in applying, you can download an application online and email it to Habitat. We've provided a link on our website. That's KOAMnewsnow.com. Retail giant Target is offering support to area nonprofits, including Joplin's Connect to Culture, but they need your help. C2C and a handful of other organizations have been nominated for the Target Circle Community Giving Program. It's a way for the Target store chain to make donations to local nonprofits, but the way the donations are divided is up to the community. Target Circle members can vote for an organization, and the one with the most votes gets the highest percentage of funds. We've provided a link to the voting on our website. Again, that's KOAMnewsnow.com. Coming up, some Missouri legislators could be deposed in a lawsuit alleging wrongful termination of a state employee. Plus, protesters in Wichita call for a special prosecutor in the case of a 17-year-old who died in police custody. A former employee of the Missouri House is suing for wrongful termination after expressing concern about a COVID policy. Now, a couple of top Missouri lawmakers are expected to be deposed in that federal lawsuit. Tad Mayfield says he asked the Senate President Dave Schatz and former House Speaker Elijah Harr in August 2020 to require masks in the entire Capitol building, not just among administrative staff of the House. He says he was later fired for alleged poor performance, but he believes it was the mask request. The lawsuit comes as the legislature convenes its 2022 session tomorrow with few COVID-19 safety measures in place. We have an update on the Cedric Lofton case. That's the high-profile case from Wichita where the 17-year-old boy died in the custody of corrections officers and his death was ruled a homicide. Well, now protests are calling for a special prosecutor in his case. Reporter Sean Alleging has more on what protesters want.
I just want justice for my brother, Cedric Lofton. Just want you to say his name, Cedric Lofton.
Continued calls for action in the Cedric Lofton case.
We want accountability for what happened to CJ, and we want to also make sure that this doesn't happen again.
At a protest Monday morning organized by Community Empowerment and Resilience Coalition, joined with other groups and individuals seeking change in how this case is going forward.
Let justice be served properly. That's not going to happen with Mark Bennett. We just don't believe that.
In a letter, they list three demands. First, that a special and independent prosecutor be assigned to the case. The group says, based on how this case was presented initially, they don't have confidence now.
Just the handling of it, the misrepresentation, the false statements that were made in the press release by Sheriff Jeff Easter and Mark Bennett.
They're also calling for the release of video evidence and the names of people involved in the events leading up to Lofton's death.
There's the cases where there's no charges, where there's no firings, where there's no suspension. It's just tiring to see a community that is constantly suffering abuse and not getting any justice.
This comes a week after the release of the autopsy report listing the manner of death as a homicide. Although in this context it means the death was the result of someone else's actions, it's not a legal conclusion and doesn't imply intent. Those at the protest say what Lofton's case also highlights is the need for changes in how mental health and juvenile cases are handled.
Policies and procedures that were in place to allow his death to happen is a result of the lack of attention and lack of priority to reform our juvenile justice system here in Kansas.
A little later, how a Kansas town plans to rebuild an historic building damaged by winds.
But first, after a day with highs back in the 50s from tracking colder air for Wednesday and some snow chances Thursday. We'll get to that next. As advertised, even though we had to deal with more cloud cover today, that south wind meant we had no problem at all. Warming back up after another kind of cold start this morning. At least the numbers certainly fared better than yesterday, where we had lows in the teens and highs in the mid-40s. We dropped back near 30 this morning, but you can see how dropping regional first impressions show highs around 50 degrees this afternoon, but we actually topped out at 51 this afternoon, warmer than our normal high of 44. While the normal high for tomorrow stays at 44, we got another cold snap on the way. Cold enough that we will see highs back in the 30s by the time tomorrow afternoon rolls around. And that's going to set the stage for maybe some snow chances on the way by the time Thursday rolls around. In the short term, though, looking good from 7th and Range line. Quiet skies up top while the traffic below is bustling along. 47 in Joplin, south wind is 16, gusting near 26 at times. It is strong enough that it does make it feel like 40 degrees outside for the effect against your skin. Much of the same for the entire region overall. Most of us in the mid, even some upper 40s still on the board, but you factor in that breeze that's been trying to gust near 40 at times, especially earlier today. It is making it feel like the mid 30s to about 40 degrees in many spots. And again, that south wind that really cranked into gear is ahead of our approaching cold front. And behind it, you can see how we go from 45 in Lincoln, Nebraska to single digits as soon as you work into South Dakota. It's not going to get that cold as that front rolls on in, but it is going to take us from the mid 40s now to 39 by midnight, eventually lower to middle 20s for the entire area as we get the morning commute underway for your Wednesday. At least there's nothing underneath the passing cloud cover right now, even with more cloud cover developing out west and eventually heading our way as we go through the overnight. Again, we've got that front eager to roll on in as we go through the overnight. No moisture with the front, but as an upper level wave developing around Montana starts to head our way, that will pick up some more moisture and additional lift. That's going to aid in some snow chances that will work in. But again, those snow chances don't come tonight or tomorrow for much of the day. In fact, we'll see just primarily that wind shift out of the south to the north, dropping us back into the 20s to start tomorrow morning out. I think we'll deal with actually partly sunny skies for tomorrow, but despite that, that north wind and northwest wind at times, even though it's going to be a lot lighter, it's going to be a cold day. 26 in the morning, 33 by noon. I only see us topping out around 37 degrees for your Wednesday afternoon. But cloud cover really ramps back up as we go into Wednesday night and early Thursday morning. And as that wave really passes nearby, look at the bands of scattered snow showers wanting to pass on through. Fortunately, this is going to be primarily a morning affair because once we get to about midday, certainly tomorrow, late that Thursday afternoon, it's going to be cold with temperatures in the 20s. But as far as snow goes, depending on certainly seeing how fast it wants to work on through, we're not going to see a lot in terms of accumulation. Overall, the snow tracker here is right along with what I'm thinking. Most of us along and north of 44 dusting to an inch, but there could be a couple of spots along the US 54 corridor where we could see snow totals around an inch. Again, not a big snowstorm by any means, but something we'll still watch over the next few days. Then we'll go to 38 on your Friday with partly sunny skies. At least we're dry to start this coming weekend out. With 52 Saturday, dropping to 36 on Sunday. That's because now another front on the way. That will send another cold snap in and possibly some rain chances too.
And those overnight lows in the teens do not look like any fun at all.
No, definitely bundle up type of numbers.
Thanks, Nick. As many of us here in the 4 states know, the winds around here can take a destructive turn at times. Well, a town in central Kansas that was hit by strong winds is figuring out how to rebuild a historic building after it was damaged. Reporter Joe Baker has more on their plan to restore that building.
A staple in Wilson, Kansas, the Shermer, Horn and Lang building has served its town since 1893. Many businesses operated in this building over the years, but for the last decade, it has sat empty. Storms damaged the building twice, once last month and once last May. Sharon Holloway ran an antique store here.
I was sick, just absolutely sick. I couldn't believe a double-walled building like that wind could take down, but it did. And that building's withstood a lot in Kansas in 100 and some years.
And this building is rare. You won't see another one like it in the area.
Front of the building is cast iron and pressed tin. And supposedly that's the only building between here and Chicago with a front like that.
It was constructed by the Mesker brothers, which is a very special cast iron company that didn't do that many building, and if there are any of them standing, it's very few.
The City of Wilson and the Wilson Tourism Hub are actively working to bring the building back downtown, but it's going to take money. They are looking for grants and donations.
But we do want to make sure that we save this original cast iron front and all of the, I would like to see us save these windows and as much of the detail as we can.
Well, I think it would bring back our history of what this town looked like when it was the first 10 or 15 years when it was originated. You know, a lot of history here.
When you look around Kansas and you look around the Midwest, there are towns that have basically more or less just given up and said, hey, whatever the future brings, that's not Wilson.
Coming up in sports, a couple of big boys basketball games tonight in Southwest Missouri to open 2022. And the Kansas City Chiefs prepare for their regular season finale against the Broncos. Jacob Leonard has that and more next.
The Carthage Tigers have been one of the hottest teams in the area to begin the basketball season. Carthage is 9-1 overall and won a tournament title at Rolla last week. Now, tonight the Tigers try to stay rolling with a big game at home facing the Nixa Eagles. Now Nixa is pretty good too. They're 8-1, currently ranked 3rd in the state in Class 6. That game will begin at 7:30. We'll have highlights right here tonight at 10. Also at 7:30, another good one in Southwest Missouri. The Webb City Cardinals play their first game of 2022 facing McDonald County. Webb City is 6-2 and ranked 8th in the state in Class 5. Mustangs not bad themselves, coming off a second place finish at the Neosho Holiday Classic. You can also check out highlights from this one at 10. The Kansas City Chiefs will finish up the regular season on Saturday, hitting the road to face the Denver Broncos. Now, the Chiefs head into the final week with an 11-5 record after dropping Sunday's game to Cincinnati. And right now, Kansas City's the number 2 seed in the AFC playoffs. They can still be the number 1 seed. They beat the Broncos on Saturday, and the Titans lose to the Texans on Sunday. Now, the good news, the Chiefs have fared pretty well against the Broncos lately, winning 12 straight against Denver, dating back to September 2015.
We've been successful as far as winning games, but they're always hard-fought battles. And like you said, that defense, I mean, they got playmakers everywhere, and they run a great scheme. They have a great defensive coordinator. They have a great defensive head coach, and they have a good feel for playing against us since we play so much. So it's always a tough-fought battle for us. A great football team, great defense, and playing in Denver is never easy. So we found ways to win games at the end of games a lot of the times here, but we always know it's going to be a great challenge for us.
The Kansas State Wildcats finish up the football season tonight. K-State's playing in the Texas Bowl this evening in Houston, facing the LSU Tigers in their season finale. And the Wildcats finished the regular season 7-5 overall. On the other side, LSU is 6-6 coming out of the SEC. A bit of a late start in this one, coming at 8 o'clock. The Wildcats, by the way, 7-point favorites. We'll have an update from this one tonight at 10. And that's it for sports. We're back with more news after this.
We take time now to honor a local veteran. Veda Kaufman served in the U.S. Navy during World War II. Her hometown, Riverton, Kansas. And we salute Yeoman 3rd Class Veda Kaufman, a 4-state hero. Here's a look at what's coming up on KOAM News at 9 on Fox 14. It's what some are calling the Great Resignation. More and more Americans are walking away from their jobs as the labor market drives up wages and forces businesses to compete for workers. Also going to see how the U.S. Department of Agriculture is cracking down on genetically modified foods. And hundreds of drivers are stranded on a major expressway for more than 24 hours. That and a lot more coming up tonight on KOAM News at 9 on Fox 14. You're going to want to leave the extra blanket on the bed for at least a couple more nights.
Yeah, especially with the cold front on the way for tonight. That drops us into the 20s to start tomorrow morning out. Only 37 tomorrow. At least we're dry compared to another wave on Thursday. That could bring some snow showers Thursday morning, but we'll stay cold with highs around 23.
Final sports note.
Big opportunity tonight for the Carthage boys basketball team hosting the 3rd-ranked team in the state in Nixa. We'll have those highlights right here tonight at 10.
Should be good. Thanks for joining us. We will see you right back here at 10. Let's make it a great evening.
Salon services